So, friends, before I get into the depth of it, it's very important to take a note of prerequisites. What are the pre-installation steps? How to download? How to basically configure? That all is very important. So listen carefully, and I hope this video will help you to install the Docker on your Windows laptop or a machine. So what I've done is I've created a mind map where I will be walking through step by step, and then we will be having a demo session where I will walk you through how to download the Docker from the Docker hub, and how to basically configure the WSL, which is nothing but the Windows System Linux, to run your Docker on Windows machine. So let's get into the mind um, map of that. So on the left hand side you have the post installation configuration and troubleshooting, and on the right hand side you have prerequisites, pre-installation steps, download and installation process. So let me first walk you through what are the prerequisite steps. So prerequisite step is divided into two parts. One is system requirements and one is the hardware requirements. So if I see on the system requirement, uh, you should be on Windows 10 or 11, and it should be a 64-bit, and there is an requirement of WSL tool, which I mentioned is nothing but a Windows, given by the Microsoft Windows, a Linux system. Okay, and then you need to enable the virtualization in BIOS, which I will walk through, don't worry. Now compared to the system requirements, we have the hardware requirements also. So you should have minimum 4 GB of RAM and the 64-bit processor. So that's what is the prerequisite requirements. Now coming to the pre-installation steps, and this is very important. So first you need to basically enable the WSL2 feature, which is the Windows System Linux provided by the Microsoft. And for that you need to basically execute a command called as WSL dash dash install on your command prompt. Then you know how can you validate whether the WSL is installed on your machine or not. Then we are going to execute something called as a WSL status and WSL minus L minus V, which will give you what is the version of WSL installed on your machine. If not, then definitely if it is having a lower version, but the minimum requirement is WSL2, if you're running version 1, then we might need to update it, and then there is a command called as a WSL dash dash update. How we will be also enabling the virtual machine, and how we can do that by simple commands, running the virtual machine platform. So running typing on the run command is the optional feature, and as soon as you press the enter, it will open a window, and in that you need to basically check box the check called as a virtual machine platform, and click OK and restart it. So that's what is the steps for enabling the virtual machine on your Windows thing. And then we talked about if your WSL is not updated to the latest version, which is WSL2, we will basically update that. We will also check whether our virtualization is enabled in the task manager. I will show you all this in our demo session, but just first understand what all steps are needed, or what are the prerequisites to install your Docker desktop on the Windows machine. So now we are done with pre-installation. Until now we have gone through the prerequisites, the pre-installation process. Now is where you need to download it. So you need to basically visit the Docker Hub website. You can just type Docker into your Chrome browser or Edge browser, and then you will be downloading the Docker desktop for Windows installer. I will walk through this whole process. Now once you have downloaded it, now you need to basically install it. So for that you need to basically just run the installation executable, and then we will be choosing WSL2 because we have already enabled our WSL tool on our Windows machine. So we will be bling that, and then finally we will wait for its completion. It's good to have the restart of your machine to get all these reflected. Coming to the right hand side, as I mentioned, we have post installation, we have configuration, and the troubleshooting. I will not go more depth of troubleshooting because you can easily there are a lot of videos available on YouTube, or you can use chat GPT copilot to debug or troubleshoot your installation of Docker on the Windows platform. But let's look at the post installation. See, as I mentioned, once we have installed it, you need to restart your computer. So that's the part of post installation. And once that is done, you will have a shortcut on your Windows desktop, or you can go to the start menu and select Docker desktop and then accept the service agreement, and finally you will have a window where it will show you the Docker. How can I verify the Docker is installed or not? You can execute on CLI command docker dash dash version. So that's one of the post installation steps to verify whether the Docker is installed or not. And then coming to the next one is the configuration. So there are certain things once you are into the Docker desktop front end or a GUI, you need to do certain settings, and we will be basically checking the CPU, memory, disk settings, as well as we will be also say doing the integration settings for WSL2, as well as file sharing settings. So those all steps, don't worry, I'm going to show you in my demo session. But before that, you need to understand what are the steps and how you can verify whether your Docker is installed on your machine and is running as per expected. Right. Finally, this is related to the troubleshooting. As I mentioned, the common issues which you can face when installing the Docker desktop on your Windows machine can be WSL related to WSL2 errors. You forgot to enable the WSL, or you are running the older version of WSL and Docker desktop wants WSL2 version, right? And there can be some settings related, but which you can easily find in, as I mentioned, on the Google chat GPT copilot, whatever you want to use AI system, you can easily find that. And one of the common issue is virtualization is not enabled, which is one of important component in the pre-installation steps, and I will be showing you that how to enable it. And there can be a firewall issues, etc. So we'll not touch base more into this detail, but we will be touching base of what I have talked about: prerequisites, pre-installation steps, how to download, how to verify, how to configure your WSL2 integration settings, how to do the resource configuration, etc. So I hope by now you got an idea what is this video about and what are the necessary things or the prerequisite things, as well as what are the steps of the installation needed to install the Docker desktop on your Windows machine. So without much further delay, I am excited to show you the demo of how to install the Docker desktop on your Windows machine. So let's get into the action. So friends, let's go to the pre-installation steps. I hope you all would be having the Windows 10 and Windows 11 machine, and you have 64-bit machine, as well as the 4 GB of RAM at least. So what we are going to do is, if you can see on the screen, I'm on the command prompt, and how I know where is my Windows system Linux installed. So you will go on the C drive. Under that you will see the program files, and in that you will see the Windows app. The moment I type that, sorry, I should do, uh, I'll go in program files. So friends, I assume you are already having Windows 10 or Windows 11 laptop or a computer, and it has minimum 4 gig of RAM. So now let's move to our first step of installing the WSL, and for that you need to go to the command prompt and type WSL dash dash install. If you have already installed WSL and if you already have a folder called as WSL, that means your WSL is installed on your Windows machine. Now, what are the contents of WSL, right? So we are going to basically quickly go and check the directory, and you will see there is certain excel exe files. One is wsl.exe file, one is wsl service.exe file. So these are the executable files which get installed as soon as you type wsl dash dash install. Let's check the version of WSL. So for that you need to type WSL dash L dash v means version, and it, if you see on my machine, I already have the version 2. How I know what Linux distribution I am using? So for that you will see LE stands for that, and it shows that I have an Ubuntu version. You can also type WSL minus L to check which Linux distribution you are using, and you will see I have Ubuntu has one of the Linux distribution. Now, if you want to upgrade from version 1 to version 2 of WSL, you will type WSL dash dash update. The moment I type that, it will start checking for the updates. Since you are installing for the first time, you will have the one version and you need to upgrade to version 2, and it will basically start updating it, checking for the updates, and finally it will install your WSL's version 2, and that's it. Now we have in we until now we have checked how to install the WSL. We have also checked what kind of Linux distribution we are going to use. We have also checked whether what version of WSL we have. Now, if I want to bring this service up, all I'm going to type is WSL minus D, that means distribution. And in my case, I'm going to basically type Ubuntu. You can also use WSL minus U root, which is nothing but with which user you want to bring up your WSL. In my case, I'm just using a plain WSL, and I want to basically bring that Linux distribution of Ubuntu. So the moment I type that, just give 1 minute, you will be entering into the Linux system. And let me show you that in a minute. So uh, you can see on my screen that I have already logged into the Ubuntu machine uh, of Windows subsystem for Linux distribution, and here I can type ls minus lrt, I can type pwd commands. So I am already in that. So moment I type cd this, it takes me to the root directory, and if you see it's just here, type ls minus lrt. There are no folders there, but you can use mkdir or you can use touch command test.txt, and it will create that file. How can I check that? See, it has the file created with the username, the group called as dt, and it was created on 10th Jan 2026. Now I want to come out of this and verify whether my service is up and running or not. So I will just type exit, and moment I type that, I'm back to my Windows, and I will type WSL dash L minus V. So you see my WSL service is up in running. Now if I want to shut down this, I'm going to just type WSL dash dash shut down, and moment I type that, this service will be shutting down. Let's execute the again command call as WSL minus L minus V, and now you see the state of my WSL is stopped. Okay, so that's how you can basically install your WSL, upgrade your version, check check which distribution you want your Windows subsystem of Linux to run. So those all are necessary things. Now apart from that, you need to now enable the Windows subsystem for Linux, and for that what we are going to do is we will be typing in run command. If you see in my previous previous session of the video, I have told type window with go to the Windows icon, press R, it will come to the command prompt, and in that you will be typing the optional features. The moment you type that, you will see the window opening which will show you the Windows feature, and in that you will see the turn Windows feature on and off. And if you see, for me, I have made Windows let me enlarge this page. If you see, I have already enabled or tick the check mark of Windows subsystem for Linux. Defaultly it will be turned off. You need to basically enable that service for you. I hope you got an understanding of how to install the WSL, how to enable the WSL on your machine. So friends, until now we have enabled our WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux. We have also upgraded to the version 2. Now we need to enable the virtualization. If for my machine on Windows 11 and Windows 10, it would be defaultly enabled. And how you can verify is go to the task manager, go under CPU, and check whether your virtualization is enabled or not. And if you see on the screen of mine, for me it is already enabled. If it is not enabled for you, you guys need to check the checkbox and your virtualization would be enabled. So that's the primary steps or the pre-installation steps or prerequisites before we install our Docker desktop for Windows. So friends, until now we have installed WSL, we are also enabled the virtualization. Now we are getting into action of installing the Docker desktop for Windows. All you need to do is search on your browser, whether you use Edge, whether you use Chrome browser, but I'm using a Chrome browser where I have just typed in the search Docker desktop for Windows. As soon as you type that, you need to click on the first link which is getting display. So let's click on that and let's go through the documentation of install Docker desktop on Windows. So once you click that, you will see you have the Docker desktop for Windows, you have Docker desktop for Windows on the Microsoft Store, and you have Docker desktop for Windows dash ARM early access. So let's go through the requirement, the prerequisites, as we talked about in our previous video, where it was you need the 4 GB RAM, you need 64-bit processor, as well as you need to enable the virtualization, which we have already done. So that's the thing. And then how, we have also seen how to verify the WSL version, which is WSL minus V or minus L. You can also use WSL dash dash version. There are other steps of how to install the WSL, which we have already gone through. WSL dash dash install WSL update, which I was showing you. Uh, Once that is done, then let's start with the Docker desktop download. So friends, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on Docker desktop for Windows on Microsoft uh, uh, Store. So I'm going to select here this. I'm going to click install, and it says always allows Microsoft to open the link, which I'm not going to check box. So friends, as you can see, my Docker desktop is getting installed from the Microsoft Store. So once it's installed, let's then open the page and go through the settings as the part of configuration. So let's just give 2 or 3 minutes to get this Docker desktop installed on my machine. So friends, finally the Docker desktop has been installed on my machine. So as soon as it gets installed, you need to basically double click on the Docker desktop icon, which is created on your desktop. Once you click that, this page will get open where it says welcome to the Docker, and it will ask you to basically create enter the work email address if you have, or you can go ahead with the personal email address as well. You also have an option to get your account created using Google or GitHub, or you can create a separate account on the Docker Hub. So for now, I'm going to basically just enter use my Google thing. So friends, I've used my Google account to sign in to the Docker desktop, and if you can see, it is starting the Docker engine. As soon as this gets completed, we will go through certain configuration items, and also we will check what whether there are any containers running, or whether there are any existing images in on in the through the front end. Also, if you have noticed right now, it is using a RAM of 2 gig and the CPU utilization is 32.76. So this keeps fluctuating, and let's just wait for our Docker engine to come up so that we can go through some of the menus on the left hand side. So friends, finally the Docker desktop is installed on my machine, and if you see on the left hand side corner, you will see something called as an engine running. That means my Docker engine has been started, and it will also tell me how much RAM it is using, how much is the CPU, how much is the disk space, etc. On the left hand side, let's go through by one the menu. Containers, right now we don't have any containers running, but if you want to know what is the container, how to use the container, you can go through this learning documents. Let's come to the images. Right now I don't have any local images on my local machine, as well as I haven't pushed any images to my hub, right? Or okay, so coming to the next point is the volume. We haven't created any volumes, but don't worry, we will be going through all these in the upcoming videos, and that's what is the course about: learning about the fundamentals of Docker, right? Creating the volumes, creating the images, pulling the images, pushing the images to the Docker hub, which can be your private hub or a public repository. Then we have something called as a Kubernetes. We haven't created any clusters, or we haven't started any, we are not going to work on anything related to the Kubernetes. We are completely going to focus on the Docker desktop. Then there is something called as a build. We haven't created our images, or we haven't built any images using docker build command, but don't worry, we will be going through all these in the upcoming videos, so stay tuned until that. So the other thing is the Docker Hub, which is nothing but a public Docker registry where you can get lot of images what you are looking. Say if I want an MS SQL image, I can pull it from there. If I want Ubuntu, I can pull it from there. If I want Python image, I can pull from there. If anyone has published its web application or NJX, I can definitely get pulled from the Docker Hub. Then there are certain extensions which are available to you. You can go ahead and download. Coming to the right hand side and little bottom, in the middle section, you will see something called as a terminal. This is where you can basically execute the command called as a docker ps. Okay, so if you see, right now there is no container running on my local machine. If I do docker ps minus a, it will give me the same output. If I want to check if there are any images installed on my local hub or kind of thing, I will use docker images, and it says me what is the image id, what is the image, what is the id, how much is the disk usage of that, what is the content size, etc. The same thing we have gone through in few minutes back on the using the web GUI on the left hand side of the menu, but you can use these commands to check that. Now coming to the settings, right on the right hand side, there is something called as a settings, and it is saying start the docker desktop whenever you sign into your computer. If you want, you can do it, but as of now I'm not going to do anything. Open the docker desktop dashboard whenever the docker desktop starts. Yes, I want to see what all is running on my docker engine, right? So that's where. So on the then there is another thing called as the resources. Remember I told you that we need to do the integration of WSL, and WSL is important for us, right? So if you're using the older version, it will show you here that you are using an outdated version or kind of thing, and then you need to update your WSL version to 2. But right now I am using the WSL2 backend, so resource limits are managed by Windows, etc. You can configure the limits on the memory, CPU, and the swap to the WSL in the WSL config file. Will not go into much that details. The disk image is going to store on app data and local docker WSL, right? So then there is something called as a file sharing. If you want to share your file or mount somewhere, you can definitely do that. But let's go to the WSL integration, and This is where we are going to integrate our Windows subsystem for Linux. It will say configure which WSL distros you want to access Docker from. So remember, when I have downloaded it, I showed you that we have something called as a Ubuntu. So let me quickly show you that as well. So if you see on the screen, you will see that I have started the Ubuntu. So let me come out of this WSLL-V. So this is what I'm using, the Ubuntu. And also you see there is a Docker desktop because it's using the Windows subsystem for Linux, right? And these two should be up and running. If they are not up and running, you might need to start those WSL services. Or when this page is, when the Docker desktop is getting loaded and it's unable to bring the Docker desktop Windows subsystem for Linux service, it will ask you to restart the WSL integration. So that's what it is. All right, so let's quickly now jump back to our desktop, right? So yeah, you can enable this. See, it says me enable the integration with additional list. So I have Ubuntu installed, so I can just uh, uh, I can just pull that to the right hand side and then say apply and restart. So as of now, I'm not going to do that, but I'm just telling you. Then we go to the Docker engine, configure the Docker daemon by typing a JSON Docker daemon configuration file. So that's where you can basically type here. This can prevent Docker from starting use at your own rig. So don't do anything, keep it as it is, right? And if you see here, it has given default keep storage of 20 gig. Now let's go to the builders. You have Docker Linux, which is already running. You have default Docker, which is already running. So let's just expand this and you will see we are using v0.26.2. Status is running, driver is Docker, blah blah things you will see here, which will not go. Then we go to the default is also the same. That's done. We are not using any AI, but definitely Docker model and enable this. Let's go to the Kubernetes. We are not doing anything related to the Kubernetes, so we are going to keep the settings as it is. Extensions, as I mentioned, if you want any extensions to be installed, you can go ahead and do that. And then comes the notification bar. You will see here I have 3 notifications on my this, right? So that's done. Let's click on containers. If we want, we can go to the terminal. Let's clear the screen, and that's how you have finally installed the Docker on your Windows machine. I hope this video gave an understanding of the prerequisites, the pre-installation steps, as well as what happens after you have downloaded the desktop. We have gone through each and every menu items on the left side of the Docker desktop front end. Also, we have seen certain commands like docker ps, docker images, docker ps minus Hey, in the next video, we will be running our first container on the Windows using the Docker desktop. And for the command for that, we are going to see in the next video. I hope this video was helpful and it gave you an idea of how to install Docker on your Windows machine. If you think has really added value or you have learned something new, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when I upload the next video on Docker series for beginners. Also, do not hit the subscribe button and the like button. Until then, take care. Bye bye.